Let's talk about determining the equation of a line. So we've been looking at slope internet form. Ugh, someone said that in class and I've got it stuck on me now. Okay, slope intercept form, which we all know, right? We should know this in our sleep by now. Slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And I'm sorry, dinosaur guy, I had to write that over you right there. So let's make you smaller and let's put you down in the corner. Y equals mx plus b. Let's remember that. That is the equation of a line. And as we've looked at, the reason it's an equation of a line, it has a y value, it has an x value, it has a slope, and it has a y-intercept. So we can plot the y-intercept, we can move by the slope, and we'll have x and y coordinates all along that line. Well, how do we determine the equation of a line if we don't have a graph? In this case, we are given the slope and the y-intercept. And so this is actually pretty simple if you think about it. To find the slope, well, we're given m is -5, and we're given b is 8. So the slope of this line is simply y equals -5x plus 8. And that is in the form y equals mx plus b. All right, look at number 2. We've added a fraction this time for the slope, which makes sense, right? Slope is, what is it? What is it in words? Right, rise over run. So we would be going up 2 over 3 to the right, up 2 to the right 3, plotting points. Well, if we want to write the equation of this line, it would be y equals 2/3 x minus 7. And I wanted to take note of something I saw in class. Some of us were putting this x down here in the denominator with 3. And you don't want to do that. M is multiplied by x. Those are two terms multiplied together. So it's 2/3 times x. And if you ended up switching those, you would get something crazy. So let's look at our friend Desmos for a second. If we have y equals 2/3 x minus 7. All right, there it is. It crosses the graph at -7, and our slope is up 2 over 3. Let's talk about counting slope once again, because I know that this has been an issue for some of you. So let's count it. Let's go to a point on the graph and another point on the graph. And what I mean is where these grid lines cross. So the grid lines cross right here, so we'll count up 1, 2, and over 1, 2, 3. You could also count the little grid lines up 1, 2, and over 1, 2, 3. But I just want to show you really quick what happens if we take that graph and we put x in the denominator. Notice how it's 2/3 times x. Well, if I do that, we get something crazy looking like this. And this is a graph you won't actually see until Algebra 2. So let's not go there yet. Let's make sure we put x in the right place, multiplied by 2/3 when we write our equations. Perfect. Okay, let's head on back over to our notebook. Okay, so we've determined the slope of the line given the slope and the y-intercept. Pretty easy, right? So let's take up the difficulty a little bit. Let's look at a second example. In this example, we're going to find the equation of a line given the slope and a point. So we're given the slope and a point. Well, how does this help us? Well, let's think about steps to solving this. In the first step, I can rewrite this as much as I know in slope-intercept form. So I can write y equals 3x plus b, right? Because y equals mx plus b, and our slope is 3. So I'll just rewrite it. Y equals 3x plus b. Well, what do you notice? We need to find b so that we can be in the form of y equals mx plus b. In order to find b, we could, if we had values for x and y, we could plug them in, substitute them in the equation, and find b. Do we have them? Well, yeah, we do. We have a point, right? And a point is really an ordered pair of x and y values. So now we'll substitute those in step 2. So we substituted into the slope formula in step 1, and now we'll substitute in our point. So y equals 4, and I use parentheses to show that I'm substituting in to organize my work. So 3 times 0, x is 0, right? And plus b. So let's simplify this. 4 equals, well, 3 times 0 is 0. We could write out that term, 0 plus b. So 4 equals b. And there we have a slope. So we have our slope given up here. Slope is 3. and our y-intercept is 4, and now we're just like the first example where we're given slope and y-intercept. So slope, or y equals 3x plus 4, and we're done. So let's try another one. Step 1, see if you can do this on your own. You can pause and look back. Step 1, we substitute in y equals 1/2 because that's our slope, right? Our slope is 1/2 x plus b. Now that we're in the y-intercept form, we want to find b. We need to know what b is, so we can be in y equals mx plus b. That's the only piece that's missing, is a value for b. So we'll take our point, which is an ordered pair of x and y values, 6 and 8, and we'll write y, oops, not y, sorry about that. We are going to substitute in y. Y is 8. So 8 equals 1/2 times 6, because x is 6, plus b. And now we can find our values. So this will be 8 equals, and 1/2 times 6, that's really 6 divided by 2, so that is 3 plus b. So 8 equals 3 plus b. We need to isolate b, so we subtract 3 from both sides, and 5 equals b. So now we have a slope, which is 1/2, and we have a y-intercept, which is 5, and we can write our equation, which is y equals 1/2 x plus 5. So I think you can handle that, and notice what we did, it was just one step more than what we did in the first example. We had a slope already, just like the first example, but we had to use that point substituted in as our x and our y values to find our y-intercept, so we could write our equation. Alright, we have 2 more examples, and this is the last level. What if we were just given 2 points? Could we find slope and y-intercept? We can, because with 2 points, can we find slope? I think you guys know how to do that, right? We know an equation for slope. Our equation for slope is y equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that's really the rise over the run, right? The change in the y value over the change in the x value. Well, if I'm given 2 points, why don't I go ahead and label those x1, y1, x2, y2. And we can determine the slope just based on those 2 points. And you've done this before, so this is nothing new. Let's keep that equation up here so we can reference it. So in our first step, we have to find slope. So we're kind of adding a step. We now have to find slope first. So m equals 5 minus 4 over 2 minus 1. And you know what that turns out to be? 1 over 1, which is just 1. That works out really nicely for us. So we have a slope, m equals 1. So now we need a y-intercept. First thing we can do is rewrite the equation with our new slope. So y equals 1x plus b, which is really just x plus b. And now we need to find b. Well, we have 2 points that we can choose from, 2 sets of ordered pairs of x and y values. So let's just choose the first one right here and sub those in. So for the third step, we will substitute in, just like we did before, x and y values. So let's substitute for y. Y is 4. So 4 equals, and x is, our m is 1, remember? So let's leave our slope in there as 1. 1 times 1, that works out nicely, plus b. So we're left with 4 equals 1 plus b. We subtract 1 from both sides, and we have 3 equals b, or b equals 3. So now we have a slope, which is 1, and we have a y-intercept, which is 3, so we can write the equation to our line, which is y equals x plus 3. And remember, our slope is 1, which would be out front. So the slope of this, the coefficient of 1, we don't need to write that in front, but it would really be the slope of 1 over 1, as we already found. Equation y equals x plus 3. One more example. Let's look at 2 points. How can you find the equation of 2 lines of a line given 2 points? Well, let's label this as x1, y1, x2, y2. And with that, we can find the slope, as we showed earlier. So let's do that in our first step. How do you guys like the purple marker? Haven't used that too much. Would love your feedback on this. We'll try to get some other colors in here. Equal opportunity with our colors. So let's plug in these equations. y2 is -4, y1 is -1. So be careful here. We have negative 4 minus negative 1. That will end up being plus, right? And then on the bottom we have 1 minus negative 3. So again, we ran into the same situation where we had minus and negative. So be careful of that, be aware of that. So let's change that to plus just so that it's very clear what we're dealing with. And let's see what that equals. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. So negative 3 over 4. So our slope is negative 3/4. Good. So now that we found the slope, let's substitute that into y equals mx plus b in a slope-intercept form. So y equals negative 3/4 x plus b. And we would love it if we could find b, and then we would be in the form of y equals mx plus b. So now that we have substituted into that form, our third step is to substitute in a value for x and a value for y so that we can find b. So let's use our second point this time. Let's use our second point. Our second point is negative 4. So negative 4 equals negative 3/4 times 1 plus b. So now we're dealing with fractions, but that's okay. You know how to bust fractions. We can do that. Let's simplify first. This will look like negative 4 equals negative 3/4 plus b. Now how can I get rid of that 4 in the denominator? If you remember, we can multiply both sides. We can multiply really this entire equation by the denominator, by 4. So if we multiply every piece by 4, so that's 4 on top, we will be able to eliminate that denominator because 4 over 4 reduces to 1. So this would become negative 16 equals negative 3 plus 4b. So let's keep solving. Add 3 to both sides. And this would be negative 13 equals 4b. And that would reduce to, if we divided by 4 on both sides, b equals, and we're going to have to scroll down here, b equals negative 13 over 4, which is kind of messy, but that may be the situation. You may end up in a situation where you have a fraction for the y-intercept, and that's okay. So now that we have a y-intercept and we have our slope, we can write it, right? We have a slope, we have a y-intercept, so let's write our final equation. It would be y equals negative 3/4 x minus 13 over 4. So yes, it looks messy, but that indeed is our equation. And you have now solved, or you have not solved, you have found the equation of lines in 3 different ways, given slope in a point, and given 2 points. Be sure to check out the questions on the Google form, and we will see you soon.